So if you're over on this video and you haven't already seen the MandR video, I would recommend going and checking out that one, because I'll be spoiling a few things over here and I'll just be going through that video. So, you know, it kind of pays to watch that one first, but it's okay, I'll wait. Cool, you back? Let's go. Now, firstly, before everything, I want to thank Ryan for thinking that my minifigures were right for his series. When I did the renders a couple of months ago, I didn't think that I'd be doing this so soon, especially to the quality of some of the minifigures that we did during this. But today I'm going to be going through a few of the decisions we made during the video, as we've been working on it solidly for about 3 weeks now, hence why videos have been a bit sporadic on this channel as of late. But we started off with making a list of all of the Star Wars characters from episode 1 that we wanted to do, and then we chose whether they were possible or not possible, or whether they needed new molds or creative decisions to get the characters to look right in one LEGO form and to the series. Now, there are a few characters in there that Ryan wanted that just weren't possible, things like and Watto. They required new molds, and that's just something slightly above my skill set, but it's great to see that a few alternative characters made their way into the series, and Watto and Boss Nass managed to get a kind of cameo by saying they were honorable mentions, and that way there's more figures for you guys to enjoy. We also agreed pretty early on that we wanted to do a sort of chrome figure or a classic figure. Now, this ended up obviously going forward with both figures, having 14 new ones, a classic and a chrome. But at the beginning, it was sort of one or the other, and eventually we just ended up going with both. But moving on to actually creating some of the minifigures. Now, here are the minifigures in MechaBrick. There's one thing different that I wanted to explain from my first rendering tutorial that I learnt during this one. Somebody on my Discord mentioned that you can create custom torsos within Mecha, and I can't remember who said this, but whoever told me is a fucking genius! Mainly because it made this entire video possible. One of the main problems I was having with some of the minifigures is it would put the old outline across some of the minifigures. Now, people in the Blender community couldn't tell me why this was happening. I think it was just something to do with the UV map going wrong or something along those lines, but making my own torsos in Mecha meant I didn't have to do the print change within Blender, which solved this issue. And I recommend now, if anybody is doing renders in Blender, to actually make their minifigure torsos still within Photoshop, but instead of importing it straight into Blender, import it into Mecha and then download that as a Blender file. It just made this whole process so much easier. So it went from looking like a bunch of minifigures with random torsos to looking something along these lines, most of the minifigs having their final prints before they even left Mecha, and then we'd just use Blender to finish off the poses as well as use the lighting engine to get out a really good render before we took it into Photoshop for its final pass. Now, obviously, most of these minifigures needed custom printing, apart from a select few in there, like Qui-Gon and Maul, you know, figures along those sort of lines that already have really decent printing. Something like Anakin needing that little ponytail piece that just adds on to the torso just to show that he's a Padawan. And I did this using just an existing ponytail piece that's already on the Anakin from episode 2, and just copying and pasting it onto a normal Jedi torso and then changing a few colors around. Some of those prints were fairly easy, but for things like C-3PO, who needed completely new custom leg, arm, and torso printing, I actually drew all of the printing myself on my iPad using an app called Procreate. Took a normal minifig torso into that program and then drew a new one out and tried to make it just look like Lego's torsos. Now, this was a complete bitch to do, but I think the final result came out amazing. Considering that C-3PO went through about 3 different figs before we finally settled on this version of him, I think this turned out to be one of my favorite figures out of this whole bunch. Speaking of which, I thought I'd just go through some of my favorite figures from the batch of minifigures that are here, some ranging from looks to my favorites to create. I think my favorite character out of the bunch is the C-3PO. I think he's just one of those ones that I'm just super proud of, because like I say, all of his printing is pretty much custom. Apart from using reference images and some existing Lego prints as inspiration, this is pretty much a completely new fig. My second favorite one, believe it or not, is the Anakin figure. I just think it looks really close to how Anakin looked at the end of episode 1. And then I think it sort of trails off from there, like some of the other customs, like the handmade, using those combined hoods to make a sort of bandana piece attached to the hood, I think is a really clever design that we ended up going with. And then Anakin's mum having the torso print, that is once again a complete custom draw. It's figures like this that just sort of leaked out as being my favorites. Obviously, there are a few in there that had very little changes. characters like Queen Amidala is pretty much the exact same as the one that we had from back when the last Queen Amidala figure came out, and Qui-Gon Jinn just using the new skirt piece in that tan color just to emulate the Jedi robes going a bit further. Little changes like that, again, just something I wish LEGO would do to some of their existing figures. As for like the background smoke details, it's just using a fog brush within Photoshop. I rendered out all of these things from Blender with a transparent background and then made the Photoshop background myself using lens flares and fog brushes and stuff like that. It's honestly not very difficult to do, but people have asked how I do my backgrounds, and that's usually how I do them. I just look forward to doing a lot more of these in the future. Some of the characters from future films, in my opinion, are a lot more interesting than the Phantom Menace, and I think some new characters that we haven't seen before could look really good in LEGO form, but all in good time. I just want to thank MandR again for reaching out to me and thinking that the style of minifigures that I personally do was right for his video. And I'm really glad that we've managed to collaborate with this kind of thing, and I've managed to get in a behind the scenes video so you guys kind of know how to do this kind of thing for your own sig figs and own designs. And like I say, if you haven't seen the video before on me telling you how to do this kind of thing, the video will be in the end card as well as in the description below. Speaking of the description below, if you haven't joined the Discord yet, go ahead and join it. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, please go ahead and hit subscribe and turn on the bell notification so you never miss one of my uploads. And some fairly big news, I actually have a website in development right now where you can download some of my instructions, as well as download some of the pictures I create if you want to use them as desktop backgrounds, and this will be on that website very shortly. As soon as the website is live, I will let you know in the future when the website is live, as we will be releasing the Hogwarts Express instructions at the same time, as well as this image. But thanks so much guys for watching this video. I appreciate all of the time you spend on my channel, and I will speak to you guys in the next one. Goodbye.